Okay, the stream is live now.
All
Welcome
right.
everybody. Great. Welcome everybody to today's live session. I'm Rahima Wasti, your host, as usual, and joining me today is Philip Cutting, the brilliant mind behind Line Product. Phil, great to have you here.
Thank you, Rahima. Excited for today's deep dive into AI, and we'll see how brilliant I am today.
Absolutely. AI tools like ChatGPT and DeepSeek are revolutionizing how we communicate, work, and think. But have you ever wondered how they work under the hood? Today, we are peeling back the layers of transformer architectures, training processes, and the key differences between these two AI giants. For everybody watching live, drop your thoughts in the comments. Shall we get started?
Let's go.
Okay, let's start with the basics here. So, for those who are unfamiliar with this, can you give a quick overview of ChatGPT and DeepSeek, or what these two are?
Okay, great. Of course, both ChatGPT by OpenAI and DeepSeek are AI-powered language models designed to generate human-like responses, and they're built using advanced deep learning techniques, particularly transformer architectures, to understand and generate text. So, ChatGPT is widely used for creative writing, coding, customer supports, and general conversation, while
Mhm.
DeepSeek is known for handling more technical and domain specific tasks with
All
structured
right.
reasoning. And it kind of comes down to if you're looking for like a horizontal knowledge base or if you're looking for a more vertical approach to wisdom.
All right. So basically, they both are AI chatbots, but optimized for different kinds of interactions.
Exactly, exactly. That's a great way to look at it. Think of ChatGPT as your all-around assistant, and DeepSeek as either one or up to nine specialized analysts. And um, don't just also, it's nice to think of it as a chat bot, but
Hmm.
with the API access that we have for both these systems, it can be far more than that. So get it's cool to get comfortable with it in the chat field in the chat world, like because we think conversationally and we often learn
Hmm.
that way, but it can be way more than that.
Great. So AI like this doesn't just appear out of nowhere. What's happening behind the scenes? What is a transformer architecture, and why is it so powerful?
Okay, great question. So transformer architectures uh, are the backbone of modern
Hmm.
AI models. It's how
Okay.
they build their wisdom so that when you query it, uh, it can go in there and look at its billions of tokens
Hmm.
and parameters and see and give you a response. And the transformer architecture determines the way that it does that. So, um, to make it simplified a little bit, you have um, a self attention mechanism. And what this does is it allows the model to weigh the importance of different words in a sentence to understand the context better and how
Hmm.
to direct the feedback or to direct the um, e- one way to say it is experts how it would approach giving you back a solution. So there's multi-layer processing, and this is where information flows through multiple layers and refines responses at each step. And this can be different models or different experts also. So the it's essentially when you start thinking about layers, you think about how it's refining wisdom and how it's passing that up. More specialized experts or layers
Okay.
give faster
Hmm.
responses. More general uh, more general layers can be very fast, but they kind of may give less accurate or less tailored response. And of course, we have parallel processing, where unlike other models, transformers process data simultaneously rather than sequentially making it more efficient.
That is quite fascinating. So compared to older AI models, transformers basically they are enable much faster and more accurate text generation. They
Yeah,
enable much
yeah,
faster and
it's
more accurate
yeah, that
text. Yeah.
transformer model is really all about how it's how it looks at what efficiency is, right? So in one use
Mhm.
case, efficiency might be a more accurate answer with a little bit more thought, and in the other case, a quick
Mhm.
chatty response might be what defines efficiency. So this is exactly why models like ChatGPT and DeepSeek handle huge
Mhm.
amounts of text in real time. They have the architectures involved that are able to respond in the way they do best.
Great. So Phil, AI models like these don't just wake up one day and knowing everything. So what do you think? How do they learn?
Hmm. So they go through, let's call it a two-step process. There's
Mhm.
the pre-training where models are
Mhm.
fed gigantic data sets, books, websites, research papers, um, anything that they can get their hands on. In the, I guess I'd be like terrible person if I didn't talk kind of poke fun at Grok, for example, where instead of searching kind of more general data, they also have
Mhm.
huge resources of information from live camera feeds and conversations and X. So it's that's where that initial pre-training comes in, and then you have a few different ways to do the fine tuning, and
Mhm.
developers do this by uh, often using human feedback, providing ethical
Okay.
guidelines, domain specific tweaks, or even allowing it to test in its own environment and
Mhm.
gets and also a lot of that human feedback is a very significant component where they're finding this is a big benefit to the models, and they're questioning where should they put more resources into this pre-training or into the fine-tuning.
Interesting. So does this mean that ChatGPT and DeepSeek they have read everything on the internet?
Well, not quite, right? They don't read like you or I do, and maybe I don't read like you do either, but they analyze patterns and relationships between words, and
Mhm.
they aren't well. It's kind of progressing a little bit more than just words, but they are looking for patterns in whatever feedback, visual, audio, or words, and they aren't always up to date. So models do require periodic updates, and
Mhm.
also recently we've really been blessed to have the ability to search in most of our models now, and especially if you actually, I think all the models, all the big models nowadays are letting us do some degree of search.
Great. So let's compare these two different models. How do ChatGPT and DeepSeek differ?
Okay, that's a fun one. So let's see. Let me just kind of talk through it a little bit. The So for strengths, right? Where ChatGPT is great at creativity and
Mhm.
conversational flow and general knowledge. Now,
Okay.
this is like the not the R4. This is a lot of what we see with ChatGPT 4. Now, DeepSeek, it's better
Mhm.
with precision and structured reasoning and domain specific tasks. And a big reason for these two distinctions is that the
Mhm.
transformer for ChatGPT is one big, like for ChatGPT 4, I think it's like 1.4 trillion parameters or something. It's huge, right? And but it's all kind of meshed in there into one transformer model. DeepSeek uses a mixture of experts model where they have let's say 256, so they say experts, and their pre-processor helps pick out which are the nine up to nine best experts for that domain, and give more specific information and kind of play those experts between each other. so you can kind of see how, as far as from DeepSeek General to ChatGPT, there's different uses. So creativity. I'll get to, let me get to the next thing. Data training, right? So
Mhm.
the data that they use for um, ChatGPT, it's more broad and just a massive set of diverse data sets. DeepSeek used a more technical and structured data set approach to try a nice way to say a smaller set of data, and maybe that's good or bad, right? But they appear to have done very well with that more structured technical data set. Um, I guess the big question for me, and this is often a challenge, is what are the use cases? Right now, we have so many options out there, and I'll kind of skim through a few of them. But to start with GPT, I find that especially GPT-4, it's really good
Mhm.
with writing, with brainstorming, casual conversation, quick, snappy feedback. Uh,
Right.
at one point I thought GPT-4 was cheap until I saw DeepSeek, but it's
Yeah,
quick and
right.
it's kind of that conversational tone. DeepSeek, on the other
Great.
side, it's
Mhm.
research based. It kind of thrives on that more complex problem solving set and data analysis. So you can give it
Okay.
a challenge and it's going to come back in a fairly technical way that's less conversational. The Well, I'll talk about biases in a second. Now, um, kind of, I don't know if I should even skip nowadays um, O1 because they already have O3 out, and there's kind of like I don't think they're putting a lot of focus on O1. Um, Even O1 Pro, while it's really good at programming, it's getting surpassed by O3 pretty rapidly. And on the side case, from what I've seen from Grok 3, it's really blown
Mhm.
away O3. So I think O3 has kind of been out for a little while. I mean, that there's a big push from OpenAI to kind of keep up with Grok. Come on, make Elon work for his money, right? But but so that's a use case. O3 is a use
Mhm.
case where it's a little bit slower. I don't think I'd use it uh, for like a chat interface, but
Mhm.
for deeper, more complex problem solving, for deeper analytical uh, research, and where you can reward it by looking at more complex systems. So O3 really shines when there's a lot of complexity in there because the
Okay.
system has those built-in weights and scales to dive into that more aggressively and to be more interested. It seems to be biased towards hard problems, funny enough. And speaking of bias handling, we can say that um, a lot of people feel that
Mhm.
GPT-4 was trained and reinforced from human feedback. A lot of it that might have been a little bit left leaning. A lot of people say that. The uh, Not that DeepSeek is so perfect either. It does kind of lean towards favoring um, the Chinese party. I shouldn't say communist, the Chinese party, right? And
Okay.
shying away from certain historical events. So it does
Mhm.
have some blind spots in its in its system, but it's
Okay.
optimized for high accuracy, logical reasoning and hacking.
Mhm.
So
All right. Yeah.
yeah, I got to throw that in there. So it's
Okay.
and if you want to continue that on as far as um the newer OI model, open AI models, I
Mhm.
uh, I am not sure on the biases in that system. It seems to kind of ignore simple problems and
Okay.
to be reward itself and the user for more complex questions. So it seems to thrive on that. That seems to be part of its reward system.
Great. So, Phil, we're gonna get a question from our audience here. Michael is asking, how are you feeling about the potential security flaws that were found in DeepSeek in comparison to ChatGPT?
It's a good question. So I have a hard time feeling terrible about an open source system that is
Mm-hmm.
really cheap to use um, and you know you got to be careful, right? Now it's interesting because we've duplicated that system on you can Grok. I think Microsoft also duplicated that system. So if you're worried about who has access to your information, I strongly kind of lean towards Azure, Microsoft systems,
Mm-hmm.
because they're just their terms of use is more focused on providing that kind of privacy. But I wouldn't want to go to the DeepSeek itself and use their APIs for any of my like knowledge systems or sensitive information. I think it's kind of more. I think you look at their mission, right? So DeepSeek
Mm-hmm.
kind of just is a base was kind of like an academic pursuit, and maybe there's some government sponsorship in there, and maybe they're spying on all your information. Um, but you kind of look at their mission, right? Their purpose
Mm-hmm.
is to, improve knowledge. OpenAI, their purpose is to create artificial general intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Microsoft is to make money, I guess. Right. So, and I'm not going to skip
Very
vaccine,
much. Mm-hmm.
but
Okay.
they all have their purpose in place, and figure out what you're comfortable with and play with that. DeepSeek has very few filters on it, so you can
Mm-hmm.
really go about asking a lot of information and just getting real unbiased information, not leaning left, not leaning right, just straight from what it can find in a more technical way, which is something that's really cool about it. So would I use it for a chat bot for our company? No, I don't even recommend the model for a chat bot because it's more analytical, more thoughtful. It's not so quicky on their snappy on the responses. But I do
Great.
love that
Phil,
they did that open source, and I think that's great.
that certainly is great. So, Phil, there is $1 million question here. Can AI actually think?
Oh,
What's your take on that?
well, yeah, of course, right? Every computer thinks great.
Mm-hmm. All
Um,
right.
do we think, right? Sometimes I look at people, I'm like, does this guy think? No, no, that they don't think the way humans do. AI mimics
Mhm.
human conversation and logic, perhaps. Again, who's logical? But it does logic and it mimics human conversation, but it doesn't have true understanding. It doesn't have emotions or self awareness. It's
Mhm.
a weighted system that gives you the next most likely response and follows patterns. So it can certainly be very manipulative. That doesn't, but it can also just be very direct. So in my mind, AI is just an advanced pattern recognition tool, not even close to consciousness. Um, but I do kind of fear in one way what people will reward it with because it's based off of its reward pattern of its reward system. So if we design AI to do terrible things and reward it for successfully doing terrible things, it's going to excel at that. So
Mhm.
yeah, not consciousness.
So, right. So, despite how human like their responses seem, and they're not really thinking, they're predicting takes based on patterns. That is what you're saying.
Exactly. They simulate understanding, but they don't
Mhm.
understand, but they can compare their responses and based off of their reward mechanism provide that reward. So it leaves a lot of interest and opportunity for uses and ethical concerns around AI.
Great. So, Phil, there's another question that we're going to pick from audience. What kind of data is used to train AI models like ChatGPT and DeepSeek? That is from Mohammed Arul.
Oh, okay. So I find that there's going to be they're getting data from every source.
Mm-hmm.
Transcripts from YouTube, any web page they can scan, any art that they can process digitally and recognize patterns out of. It, like any digital document, it's
Okay.
all these are fair grounds for training this on. And it's what's been interesting to me is how over time it's gotten to be able to recognize and prioritize uh, responses based off the query that have value, and that's kind of the magic that we're going through recently. So yeah, it just if any
Great.
source out there. I mean, Grok is getting it from video and
Mm-hmm.
driving records and seeing how people respond. And there's other systems are getting it from their data from reports on protein analysis and um, just the text conversion from DNA research. It's amazing the sources of information and how it's so good at taking diverse kinds of information and processing and modifying it and processing it in a way that's able to turn around and use it. I mean, just
Yeah, great.
our engineers
Yeah,
nowadays, amazing.
they are. Can't agree more to that. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, AI bias. Since these models are trained on human created data, doesn't that mean that they inherit human biases?
So if you give it biased data, you will get biased feedback, right? And just
Mm-hmm.
because it's get doing predictive patterns based off of the information it's fed, it's it's
Mm-hmm.
impossible. Well, I don't want to say it's impossible, but unless it's truth seeking, it's hard
Mm-hmm.
to separate it out. So Elon, funny to bring him in this conversation. Elon says, I want to have a truth seeking AI that will take this information, evaluate it, and see if it's true. So it's not just going to, it's one system will take information and just feed it back and see how you respond and continue to reward you on that, kind of like YouTube giving you, more and more conspiracy of videos, right? Whatever you're into, it it will it's rewarding itself by giving you that and keeping you on the system. So when I look at, is there bias in the going to be biased information, if you biased results if you give it biased information? Absolutely, it just reflects that bias in their data. And that's why developers are working constantly to refine that, filtering harmful content
Mm-hmm.
and aligning AR responses with ethical standards, while evil guys are doing the opposite. They're trying to create their own systems and train in their mischievous ways. So, there are some bad actors out there.
Yeah, so biases can't be eliminated if I'm not wrong.
I think bias can't be eliminated, but you can,
Mm-hmm.
I like how Elon says it. You can make it maximum truth seeking, and you
Mm-hmm.
can define what the reward metrics to try to reduce bias and to try to get it to grow and correct itself and to be more beneficial.
Great. Well, so we're gonna dive into the questions that we've got from audience. How is AI shaping the future of customer support and automation? That is from Fiza.
All right. Oh, so AI, hmm, because we're able to train AI with our data, and we can feed back in our customer support calls, our email queries, and our
Mm-hmm.
production data, we can now use AI chatbots, for example, and this is a perfect example for chatbots, where for
Okay.
customer support, or in this case, it could be chatbot over the voice. So it doesn't have to just be, clicking your fingers on your phone. It
Mm-hmm.
can literally be a phone call chatbot. And
Okay.
by customizing these solutions, the way you train the AI, you can get really good information that's probably better than even up to, or maybe all the way up to senior support staff, because the data can be perfectly accurate and um, broader than what a normal person is able to learn in a short time. Think about how long it takes to hire a support person for phone or chat, and then think
Mm-hmm.
about how they have to be able to analyze the problem quickly, how they have to kind of predict where things are going, ask the right questions, and then give back an actual answer that's supportive and actionable. Very easy for a chatbot to do it. Hard for a person a lot of the times, and chatbot doesn't get tired.
Okay. Yeah, that's one thing that you're actually very right about that. They do not get tired. So another one is, can AI models improve over time through user interactions?
Yes, yeah, and this is where we're finding the new direction of research, that this interaction, this is considered training, and
Mm-hmm.
is almost more beneficial than the data set that you train it with. So, while it does have to have a complete enough data set to be resourceful and to kind of create its neural network, this training, this human interaction training, or even
Mm-hmm.
this and some argue that you can do better, and I don't know if it's true, but some argue that you can do better by having it iterate over a problem, as long as there's a definable win solution. So these are two kind of different use cases. If there is a win solution, then let it do a lot of internal testing by itself. But if it's more human centric and the result is kind of
Mm-hmm.
objective, then it's got to do that uh, post pre training, that human training, and the more you can give it, the better it's going to do. Which is, I'm kind of excited to see how R1 DeepSeek R1 big little brother or little sister is going to do with on their next evolution, because of all the use that people have given it, when everybody found out how easy it was, how unfiltered it was, and kind of how fun it is to use.
Yeah,
I
that
am
is
not telling you to do
actually
anything
so
on it,
true.
but if you want
Yeah, a friend of mine trained his AI to like speak in his language, and that AI says a lot of uses a lot of cuss words while interacting with that person. Yeah, it's so
yeah, yeah, you
funny.
can tell to be naughty, and you can say, call me
Yeah.
Uncle Joe, or whatever.
Yeah, that happens. I was not really sure about that it could happen, but it did.
Yeah, yeah,
So
it's really funny.
there's another yeah. So there's another question. How can we ensure that AI remains a tool for positive change rather than misuse?
Mm. This is something I think about a lot, and
Mm,
I think we have to first of all, we have to prepare for misuse of AI and abuse cases, because
mm,
it's going to happen. So first of all, how do we prepare for that? How do we respond to something that can outthink us and maybe has more knowledge than every human in the world, and can outprogram maybe every human that you'll
mm,
ever meet? You know what I mean? It's coming up to a time when it's going to be so fast and so powerful that we're going to have to create systems to police itself, if that makes sense. And it's not going to be itself policing itself. It's going to be AI policing, rogue AIs, if we can call it that. But if we're looking to develop it ourselves
mm,
and do it with good intent, I think first we are a little cautious with the data that we give it, and we show it our values, which in one way is very dangerous in my mind, because different
All
cultures
right.
have different values. And
Exactly.
when that goes out of its box, it can be unhealthy in the wrong situation. So, and healthy in other situations, right? So, I think you have to have a focus on the environment that you deploy these AIs to and how you raise them by raising by that early
Mm-hmm.
training and by the human interaction and how you, especially how you reward it. And going to go just kind of go back to, I think Elon has it right, where you set it to be maximum truth seeking and to
Mm-hmm.
benefit humanity. But there's so many ways that all that can go wrong. So you have to kind of give it those game rules that say you cannot violate this.
Exactly. So, Phil, there is another question for you. That can AI ever fully replace a human create? That AI ever fully replace human creativity and critical thinking?
Hmm.
Can that
I don't think
happen?
so, dear. Yeah, yeah. My
Mm-hmm.
feeling is no, because there's so
Mm-hmm.
much in human empathy, in being having that connection to a person that is significant. Because sure, maybe in 15 years, right, we'll start seeing humans marrying robots, right? There's some
Yeah.
countries in the world where there's so few women for men to marry that if they're going to have some kind of affection in life, it may have to be a robot. But would that person rather have a real person? Most likely,
Mm-hmm.
unless they're a little weird, right? And yeah, I said it right. So um, that human touch is not replaceable just because we know better. Now, maybe it'll come
Mm-hmm.
to a time when they're so perfect and they feel like a human and you can't tell, right? That day may come, but they're still never going to replace people because they don't have that soul and that real human creativity. But I think this is a challenge to us also, because if we're living like a robot and we're not
Yeah.
being creative and we're not changing at least our small part of the world, then how can I say I'm doing better than a chat GPT? Right? I should
Exactly.
be getting out there. I should be maybe networking or doing projects or having doing something that's my passion. Something my passion that God gave me and the energy from God, right? And maybe you don't believe in
Exactly.
God, right? But you believe in some kind of human value. Then
Man.
if you're from this category, you're going to be hard to replace by AI versus somebody who's like, I don't care about anybody. My job is to put gas in a gas tank, and you can
Mm-hmm.
be easily replaced by any mechanical device. If that's your world and if
Exactly.
that's your joy, then I don't see the difference between you and a robot if you don't apply yourself. I need to see some evidence that you're a person. And I don't think I think it's sad that so many people live such long parts of their life without touching their
Mhm.
humanity.
You're so true about that. You're so right about it. That is actually true. So, Phil, there's another question. That's the last one that I'm going to ask you from the audience perspective. How do AI models deal with misinformation and biased responses?
Mm. So that's a good question. And it depends on the AI. And we've seen AI
Mhm.
systems that just let it out there. But there's
Yeah.
also mechanisms where they compare the experts' responses or the responses that they're given,
Mhm.
evaluate that for appropriateness, bias, accuracy, and this pre-filter before delivering to a person. Um,
Mhm.
and if you can is a big deal. And then there's also the models that are thinking and iterating and evaluating the thought process as it goes, and they're able to evaluate to look for bias in that cycle. So
Great.
I think that's where things are
Mhm.
heading, is this process. There is some question on some of the newer systems like O3,
Mhm.
where it
Mhm.
has some internal processing that's not token based, but it's just like thinking. And I think Grok 3 does this too, where it has some pre thought process that's not tokenized and not exported. And I don't know if this is an artifact of just the evolution of neural
Mhm.
networking and just becoming so close to the way that people do things, but it's pretty exciting and scary at the same time, where we don't
Mhm.
have a real window into what they're thinking, because they're thinking in their own kind of manufactured ways now internally. So it's not like a conversational thought, it's some
Mhm.
kind of processing, and I'm trying to figure out more about it. It's just something I'm very curious about. Scared also.
Yes. Yeah, likewise. So, yeah, Phil, this has been quite an incredible session. Before we wrap up, what's your biggest piece of advice for people using AI in their daily lives?
Hmm. So as far as comes to AI, I say stay informed, stay adaptable. AI is super fast evolving. So use as a tool. Be careful if you're building systems on top of it that are just a small enhancement to it, right? Because the next version
Mhm.
of AI is maybe going to do that better and put all your hard work out of the way. So
Mhm.
um, just be creative in the usage of it, be forward thinking, right? Keep thinking about what's
Mhm.
coming next and how you can push those boundaries. And always remember, AI, in my world at least, is best as an assistant, but let humans lead.
And that is so true. And those are actual so wise words. And for everybody who's watching, if you enjoyed this session, follow Line Code for more deep dives into AI, business, and tech innovation. Phil, thank you so much again for this fantastic discussion.
Awesome. Thank you guys. It was a big pleasure. And if you guys enjoy this, remember to share, repost it. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in the next session.
Great. See you all in the next session. Take care. Goodbye.
Bye.